students, and welcome to our learning video. I am your teacher Donna, and together with me is teacher Marianne, teacher Klent, teacher Sharah, and teacher Jastine. We are about to discuss education for sustainable development and subtopics under ESD, like major points on education for globalization, components of sustainable development, essential skills for ESD, founding value of ESD, key action theme for ESD, and right attitude towards globalization. And for the last one is four dimension of ESD. At the end of this discussion, you will be able to learn the role of education in achieving sustainability. So, are you ready? Let's go!
Let's begin by defining the terms. Let's start with Education for Sustainable Development, or ESD, is an active and expanding field of educational innovation and transformation worldwide. Another definition, according to UNESCO 2014, ESD empowers people to change the way they think and work towards a sustainable future.
In the first definition, it emphasizes that ESD takes a big part or role in our sustainable development. Also, it is said that transformation worldwide because ESD is holistic and transformational education which addresses learning content and outcomes, pedagogy, and learning environment. Plus, according to UNESCO 2014, that it achieves its purpose in transforming society. In the second definition, according to UNESCO, emphasizes that people needs quality education to develop their knowledge, skills, values, and behavior needed for sustainable development.
The last term is education. What is the role of education in achieving ESD? Education is an essential tool for achieving sustainability, and it also affects sustainability in terms of implementation, decision making, and quality of life. Essential tool because it educates people to develop knowledge, skills, values, and behavior that would be helpful for our sustainable development. And that's all for the definition of terms.
Hello everyone, my name is Marianne Largado and I'm going to report about the major points of education for globalization and the components of sustainable development. So we all know that globalization is about the interconnectedness of people and business across the world that eventually leads to global cultural, political, economic, and integration. So, as education serves as foundational to global stability, the development of multicultural awareness from an early age may integrate the ideologies sourced from various societies in order to arrive at well-balanced and conclusion regarding issues that around the world as a whole. So, globalization in education then come to affect one another through mutual goals of preparing young people for successful futures during their nations will grow increasingly connected. So with globalization, some of the challenges for knowledge, education, and learning will provide today's learners the ability to be more familiar and comfortable with abstract concepts and certain situations. So how will this affect the economy in country or region? So globalization will continue to have a profound impact culture standards of living, economic structures, and wealth distribution of people and nations. So there's a positive side of globalization. It's improved trade, technology, adaptation, access to a quality of education, healthcare delivery, social awareness, and poverty alleviation. It opens the awareness of the globalizing, shrinking world. So it means we will we will aware of what's going on in the world. So through the driven by information technology, social media is and spread travel, global trade and internationalization of business. So we can easily travel. It's because we can search for our Google, or we can find ways how can we travel abroad, or for the businessman, they can easily trade their business to other country. And of course, through social media, like for example, today we are experiencing pandemic. So we early detection, we can save life. So next is it's nurture higher cognitive interpersonal skills, values, problem attitudes for problem findings. So these are just examples of pictures na. So it's only it is also nurture it's nurture personal respect and respect for others wherever they live. So merong mga tinatawag nating educational exchange. So yung mga student from the universities are going abroad para they enhance their knowledge and they share their skills. And then yung mga person then from abroad, they came to Philippines para mag-learn din sila sa kung ano yung mga na-learn nila sa atin is they will share to their country. And the same way din sa mga Pilipino na pinapadala doon sa Pilipinas, or mga students, mga learners na ini-enhance pa nila yung knowledge nila, sinishare nila yung talent nila sa ibang bansa. At pagdating nila dito is kung ano yung mga na-learn nila is sinishare din nila sa atin. It encourages individuals to think deeply and critically about what is equitable and just and what will minimize harm to our planet. So next is affirm the human rights to education. So human rights education is defined as the learning process that builds up the required knowledge, values, and proficiency of human rights, of which the objective is the developed and acceptable human rights culture. So they have the objectives. It is to have the develop their knowledge. So it is also defined as training, dissemination, and information efforts aimed at building a universal culture and rights by imparting knowledge and skills and molding attitude. So tayong lahat is have a right to enhance our skills. Kahit na wala tayo sa mga universities, meron tayong tinatawag na TESDA, may mga free education or free trainings na pwede nating i-avail, or pwede nating i-impart ating knowledge, and that way ma-mold ang ating attitudes. So ultimate of goal of educations for human rights is empowerment, giving people and knowledge and skills to control of their own lives and the decision that affects them. Next, it gives the capacity as required for world citizenship. So what is global citizenship? So it is the way of living that recognizes our world is an increasingly complex web of connection and interdependencies. One is which our choices and actions may have repercussions for people and communities locally, nationally, and internationally. So we have to accept any changes. If example, there's a changes sa ating government, so we have to adjust and adapt And we have also to respect the values diversity, understand on how the world works, and it is aware of the wider world and has a sense of their own rules as a world citizenship. It is outraged by social injustice, and of course participates in the community at the range of level from the local to the global, and is willing to act to make the world as more equitable and sustainable place. So it takes responsibility for their action. To be effective global citizens, young people needs to be flexible, creative, proactive. They need to be able to solve problems, make decisions, think critically, communicate ideas effectively, and work well within teams and groups. These skills and attributes are increasingly recognized as being essential to succeed in their areas of 21st century life, to including many workplace. So, exploring global citizenship means teams help learners to grow more confident in standing up and impact of beliefs, and more skilled in evaluating ethics and impact their decision. So, in order for us to sustain our development, there's a three component or parts. It is social, and under the social, we have world peace. So, si President or yung mga ating mga government official ay nakikipagkaibigan sa mga ibang bansa kagaya ng Russia, China, American, Japan. It's because para ma-promote ang ating world peace and maiwasan ang war or ang pagka-misunderstanding ng iba't ibang bansa. And also, we have equality. So, lahat tayo is pantay-pantay, walang mataas na bansa, walang mababang bansa, walang mahirap, walang mayaman. So, we have to equality, and also the democracy. We have a freedom to choose kung sino yung mga gusto nating maging pinuno ng ating bansa. Next, of course, is economics. So, under sa economics is, of course, kailangan meron tayong mga work. So, kung wala tayong work, paano uunlad yung ating bansa or ang ating ekonomiya? So, of course, kung meron tayong work, meron din tayong money. So, money and education are the components of sustainable development. So, paikot-ikot lang siya. Kung may trabaho tayo, meron tayong pera. So, pag meron tayong pera, pwede tayong makapag-aral ng mas para ma-enhance pa natin yung skills natin, and then para ma-promote tayo ng mas mataas na posisyon. Last is environment. So, of course, environment, so we have to conserve, preserve, and protect our environment. Para sa future generation is meron pa tayong maipamana sa kanila kung ano man yung mga naranasan nating mga sariwang hangin, mga fresh at magagandang tanawin ay ma-experience din nila or matamasa rin nila sa near future. So that's all about my topic. I hope you learn something, and let's proceed to the next reporter. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Klent Marc Azuelo, and I will discuss the essential skills and founding value. So first is essential skills. There are 5 skills. First is envisioning, being able to imagine a better future. The premise is that if we know where we want to go, we will be better able to work out how to get there. So next is critical thinking and reflection. Learning to question our current belief systems and recognize the assumptions underlying our knowledge, perspective, and opinion. So, critical thinking skills help people learn to examine economic, environmental, social, and cultural structures in the context of sustainable development. Next is systematic thinking, acknowledging complexity and looking for links and synergies when trying to find solutions to problems. So, making connection on the implication of business activities leads to higher level thinking about complexity. Next is building partnership, promoting dialogue and negotiation, learning to work together. So illustrate interdependence and their potentials. In class discussion, students listen to their peers and share ideas and opinions in order to construct a common answer to the problem. Next is the participation in decision making, empowering people of openness in class conversation. The next is the founding value of ESD. In December 2002, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution putting in a United Nations Decade for Sustainable Development or DESD spanning from 2005 to 2014. The founding value is of ESD is respect. The first is respect from others. So, receiving respect from others is important because it helps us to feel safe and to express ourselves. And being respected by important people in our lives, growing up teaches us um, how to be respectful toward others. And respect means that um, you accept somebody for who they are, even when they are different from you or you don't agree with them. Next is the respect in the present and future generation. So, activities of present generations may affect the fate of future generations for the better or for the worst. So, what we do with our natural and cultural heritage mainly determines and why future generations may live their own life in the future. So we as presently living human beings have an undeniable moral responsibilities toward future human beings. So the papers present a methodology for assessing the impacts of present generations on the prospect of future generations. So next is respect for the planet and what it provides to us. So respect the resources and the fauna and the flora. So that's all for my discussion. Thank you.
Key actions theme for ESD: gender equality. Number 2, health promotion. Number 3, environment. Number 4, rural development. Number 5, cultural diversity. Number 6, peace and human security. 7, sustainable development. 8, sustainable consumption. So, gender equality gives women and men the same entitlement to all aspects of human development, including economics, social, cultural, civil, and political rights. The same level of respect, the same opportunities to make choices, and the same level of power to shape the outcomes of the choice. Health promotion
is the process of enabling the people to increase control over and empower their health. It is a positive concept emphasizing personal, social, political, and institutional resources as well as physical capacities. Next, environment. The circumstances, objects, condition by which one is surrounded. Rural development. It is very important because it is a vital for the effective development of the country. This includes education, employment opportunities, infrastructures, housing, civic amenities, and the environment conditions. How to achieve cultural diversity. In our country, workplace, and schools, increasing consists of various cultural, racial, and ethnic groups. We can learn from one each other to facilitate collaborations and cooperations. While peace and human security is very important because it is safeguarding and expanding people's vital freedom. It requires both protecting people from critical and pervasive thereat and empowering peoples to take change of their own lives. And the other side, sustainable development is very important because it is using current level of resources as this will not have enough for the future generation. Stabilizing and reducing carbon emission is key to living environmental limits. An example of that is the green spaces such as park, wetlands, lake, forests, and other ecosystems are fundamental to sustainably develop urban areas. These examples are only few of the many types of sustainable development that have potential to perpetuate positive global change. And lastly, the sustainable consumption. It is the use of services and related product which is response to have need and bring a better quality of life while minimizing the use of natural resources and toxic materials as well as the immersion of waste and pollutants over the life of cycle of the services or product.
Good day, future teachers, and also ma'am. Whenever you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, this time I will present to you a right attitude towards globalization and the four dimensions of ESD or Education for Sustainable Development. The first one is right attitude towards globalization. So I present to you my PowerPoint presentation a little bit. So the right attitude towards globalization. So um, there are four main globalists in terms of optimist globalist, uh, pessimist globalist, traditionalist globalist, and just transformation globalist. So in order to introduce to you what is globalist. So globalist specifically means to take the view that globalization is a real and tangible phenomenon. So the first one is optimist globalist. So optimist globalist, they say only the bone of globalizing influences in terms of improved quality of life, higher living standards, and a greater social cohesion and understanding. So optimist globalists also known as a hyper-globalist approach, welcomes the idea of globalizations but focuses on the potentials of interconnections and stretch social relations to bring people together, improve the quality of everybody's lives. Global's village promoting to share the cultures and intermingling of peoples across the world in cities and towns so that we are all becomes world citizens through global communication, travel, and work flows. They admit that there are global problems too, but believe new technologies and global ideas can reduce the threat of global pollutions. So the global structures can do a better job at tackling big economic and social problems than nations and countries. So optimists or a positive globalist point to the benefits of globalizations and sees the result of globalizing influences as a change to welcome. They focus on the potentials of stretches, social relations to ignore the quality of life, raise living standards, and bring people together, which in town practice or understanding among um, nations around the world. So the second one is pessimist globalist. So they say it's the dark side of globalizations with global first world countries imposing their own economic and political agendas on the world. So pessimist globalist believes that there are many groups and individuals who are not the victims of globalizations, such as women, unskilled manual laborers, and local tributes peoples are right to say some regions are victims of globalizations. So because the poor regions are affected by globalizations and therefore their health is not being improved but being made worse, which goes the statements of hyper-globalism of globalizations, the health of people's lives. So pessimist globalists, by contrast, see the world as becoming less diverse and more homogeneous. They emphasize the dominance of major economic and political interests. So they say the diminutions of national identities and sovereignty negatively and point to the uneven consequences of globalizations. So the third one is traditional globalists. Is traditional globalists protecting the status quo. They take a safe ground, feelings indifferent to change, saying that the effects of globalizations need not to be exaggerated. So in traditional globalists, conversely, globalists are skeptical about globalizations. They dispute the notion that there is an evidence of fundamental or synthetic shift in social relations. So they believe that the globalization is a myth, or at this any rate is much exaggerated. Present. The traditionalists argue that the occurred between nations in previous historical times. The exchange of goods and cultures goes back to early times, and in the times and 19th centuries, open trading and liberal economic relations were the women worldwide. And then traditionalist globalists, they argue that the significance of globalization as a new base has been exaggerated. They believe that the most economic and social activity in regionals rather than the global and scale see a significant rule for the nation's status. So the last one is the transformation globalists. They would not stand and wait but take a proactive stand. So, and transformation globalists suggest that the impacts of globalizations are uneven and distinctive. So, the unevenness of globalization is what has been already discussed in the paragraph above, whereby poor regions are victims. So, transformation globalists are the right to say they want new and progressive structures to evolve at a global level that are not present now. So, in other words, transformation globalist approach seeks to move beyond the smallest avoid debate between the globalist and the traditionalist. They believe that globalization represents a significant shift, but questions the inability of its impacts. They argue that there is still significant scope for national, local, and the other agencies as well. So this second part of my report is a four dimension of education for sustainable development, or ASD in other word. So there are four dimensions of ASD. Uh, we have environmental awareness, competencies for the knowledge economy, human or social capital and economic growth, and the lastly is inclusive education. So I present to you my a graphic concept about how four dimension can achieve education for sustainable development. So the first one is environmental awareness. So environmental awareness and awareness of the resources and fragility of the environment and the effects on its human activity and decision. So um, the competencies for the knowledge economy. Okay, so the second one is the knowledge for competencies for the knowledge economy. So the knowledge economy is focused on the essential importance of a human capital in the 21st century economy. There are additional workplace competencies needed in the knowledge competence economy. So communication skills, problem solving skills, that ability in work in teams, and ICT skills, among others, are becoming important and complementary to basic core of foundation skills. So third one is the human or social capitals and economic growth. Of course, human or social capital affects economics growth and can help to develop an economy by expanding the knowledge and skills of its people. So, human or social capital refers to the knowledge, skill sets, and experience that workers have in an economy. So, human or social economy, human or social capital, and economic growth. So, human capital includes the skills that and knowledge we gather in a formal and informal learning. So, while a social capital built through meaningful interactions between people facilitates the learning and use of these skills and knowledge. And the lastly is to achieve the four dimensions of education for sustainable development, or ASD, is inclusive education. So this is very important to talk about inclusive education. So inclusive education is when all students, regardless of any challenges they have, are placed in age appropriate general education classes. Where am I? Classes that are our own neighborhood schools to receive high quality instructions, interventions, and support that enable them to need success in the curriculum. So, successful inclusive education happens primarily through accepting, understanding, and attending the students to differences and diversity. It's very important to accept the students' differences and diversity, and of course the nature of the students, so which can include physical, cognitive, and economic, social, and emotional. So however, similar to parents, teachers with more experience in the case of teachers more training with inclusive educations, we're significantly more positive about it. So teachers in a need an understanding of best practices in teaching and of adapted instructions, but positive attitudes towards inclusion are also among the most important for creating an inclusive classroom that works. That's why we have to inculcate our own self and also the students to believe that inclusive education is achieved by its power of through disciplines, acceptings, and understandings by how they treat our students in the futures. So that's my report all about the four dimensions of education for sustainable development and also the right attitude towards globalizations. Thank you.